views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Welcome, good people of the Bronx and beyond. My name is Henry Ovalles, and I'm your host for Life in Art. On this show, we will bring you engaging and personal conversations with artists with whom you may not be familiar, people who have been working on their craft for at least a decade and are at a crossroads where passion meets necessity. We'll discuss creativity and inspiration with our guest artists, but also find out what it takes to balance the struggles of practical life while pursuing their passions. Our guest today is a talented singer, dancer, actress, and yogini. She has released several recordings and toured internationally. Today we learn about Cynthia LaCruz's life in art. And we're here in the studio with my good friend, Cynthia LaCruz. Cynthia, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for inviting me and having me.
Oh, sure, definitely. Basically, when I thought of the concept of the show, yours was one of the first names that popped into my mind as someone I wanted to talk to. And I don't think I've said this to you before, but I think you're probably, if not one of, the most soulful person that I've ever met. Like, there's just depth to you. So today I want to try to dig in there a little bit and find out where that comes from and what's that all about. So let's start at the beginning, Cynthia. Where were you born? Where did you grow up?
So I was born in the Bronx, and then I grew up in Washington Heights.
Okay.
Yeah.
And at what age did you go over to Washington Heights? Do you
I
know?
was 2.
Okay, so yeah, pretty much your
2
whole
years
life.
old.
Yeah. And talk to me a little bit about your family history. I've met your mother. I know that she's, a poet, but I don't think I know much about your father. What's the story there?
So my father, he left. My mom and him got divorced when I was 9.
Okay.
So he really wasn't in the picture up until I was 15, maybe. I saw him again.
Oh, so from 9 to 15, you just had not much contact?
No kind of contact with him. And then now again, he's kind of back in my life.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, so my mom was like a single parent raising me, and she did an amazing job, because here I am trying to be an artist, and she didn't have to pay for all these lessons. She just, needed to put food on the table, but she just, she made a sacrifice and put me in dance lessons and all these things.
And at what age did that start?
I was 9 when I really started like singing, and because I didn't even know I could sing, I
Really?
didn't even, yeah, it kind of just happened. Like I was singing the Star Spangled Banner at my elementary. We had to stop wherever we were and Pledge of Allegiance and sing the Star Spangled Banner. And I remember they would put a recording of Whitney Houston over the speaker, and then I started singing, and I was in the hallway going from the bathroom, and the principal was behind me, and I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna get in trouble. So then she asked me, she's like, oh, what's your name and what class are you in? And then I told her, my class, whatever.
Yeah.
So then later on in the day, the whole time I was worried. I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna get in trouble.
I got caught in the hallway by the principal.
Yeah.
And then
my music teacher was like, oh, the principal said she heard someone singing in the hallway. Who was it? And then I didn't raise my hand. I was so worried. And then, I had told my friend, and she was like, it was her. So then
snitch.
Yeah.
She ratted you out.
I know, before good, because it totally changed the course of my life. They had asked me to sing the Star Spangled Banner at our first spring festival. And then that's how it started,
And this was at 9 years old?
Yeah, I was like 8, 9 around there. I was like 3rd, 4th grade, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, and it's interesting that you say, so your parents were divorced at 9 and sort of your artistic life starts at that point also.
Yeah.
What's the connection there? Do you think it was coincidental, or was there a part of you or your mother wanting to nurture something in you to sort of help you get through that time in your life?
I don't know, really, because my mom really didn't accept it like seriously until later, like in my teens, when I remember I went to karaoke with my cousin, and I was singing Ginny in a Bottle. I was very into like the pop, like Backstreet Boys and that whole thing, and I wanted to be a pop star.
Right.
And my mom was like, okay, she likes to dance, she likes to do music. But my cousin, who's actually a singer as well, Eliel Luceta.
Oh yes, I've met Eliel.
Yeah, Eliel, he was like, Carmen, she has something. You have to do something about it. You know, she has it. She has it. You know, and he had kind of already been going through all the artist things in our family.
Oh, I see. So he was sort of the one to start it out and like let put the family on notice. Like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
This is a path that's going to be followed.
Right, and then you know it's funny because I used to like kind of judge him like he wants to be an artist. I would never do that. I'm gonna go to college. I'm gonna finish. I'm never gonna have those problems. But right now we're like in the same position. So
Right.
it's so
That's
funny.
why you say I'm not going to have those problems.
Right. Yeah.
Being an artist was such a problem.
Yeah. It's been a lot of heartbreaks.
Right.
A
No,
lot.
yeah, definitely. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
that's part of the struggle, but I think it's worth it. I mean, and as we continue our conversation, we'll see how you feel about that. So talk to me a little bit more about your parents. Are they both Dominican, born in the Dominican Republic?
Yes, they're both Dominican. My mom was born in Moca, I believe.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I'm Mocano.
I know.
I got to talk to her next time.
You have to. I don't know if they were briefly there, I believe. And then they moved to Nibaje.
Mm-hmm.
And then my mom started teaching, and they went to Puerto Plata, and that's where she met my father.
I see.
Yeah, so he was from that town where she was teaching.
Right, so your mother as an educator and poetry has always been part of her life? She's always been a poet?
Always.
Right, and
Like,
did your father have any artistic inklings or?
no, not at all.
Right.
My father, I'm sorry, you know, if he watches this thing, he loved gambling. Like,
Okay.
that was his thing.
Hey, such is life, you know. There's an art
Yeah.
to that too, I suppose.
I guess, yeah.
Yes.
The thrill.
Yeah, yes. So now, so no siblings? You don't have any brothers or sisters?
Yes, I have an older brother and older sister.
Oh, you do?
My brother is actually an amazing artist, like visual artist.
Oh,
Yeah.
fantastic.
So I was always around art. Like my mom's house right now has so many paintings of my brother. And you know, I grew up seeing those. My mom loves collecting art. Like so much that is like, okay, Ma, where are you gonna fit this? Like
Right.
she just hoards art and little things. So I guess that just filled me kind of,
Right.
I believe subconsciously as a young girl looking at all this art, and it was always very tropical and like,
Right.
and cultural.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
Yeah.
And your other sibling is in the arts also, or not so much?
Not really. She's a teacher, but there was one time she took up like sculpting for some time.
Right,
But
right.
yeah, no, she's kind of like a little more like I want to say business-like, and yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So now let's go back to your schooling. So you say you started taking dance lessons when you were 9 years old and were
Yeah.
discovered by your school principal as far as your singing talents.
Yeah.
When did acting come into your life? Was it around the same time or did that come later?
No, actually, college, when I started meeting all you guys, I never
Right.
thought of acting, you know? I was actually, it's so funny, and that's actually the time when I started really thinking about college. I'm here like, you know, my struggle. Henry, if anyone knows, it's Henry, that I didn't really want to do college. I wanted to perform. That was,
Right.
my thing was like, why do I have to study? You know, I was young and like, I don't have to study that, whatever. So I was actually coming to bring my friend to school,
Which friend is this?
Glennis.
Glennis Mancilla.
She was already here at Lehman, and I came with her one day because she had just gotten her driver's like license, and I remember we drove here, and I was like, okay, maybe I'll check it out, and I saw auditions for The Wiz,
Right.
and I was like, wow, and it said like a soulful rendition of The Wizard of Oz, and I was like, whoa, soulful, that's speaking to me, and all
See?
this stuff.
Soulful, yes.
Yeah, I guess. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna go, you know, I'm gonna audition, and then that kind of prompted me to get in school
Right.
because I knew I had to be in school to do that, and that's really where I started acting. Like I was like, oh, this is kind of fun, you know, the acting.
Yeah, and I mean, it's
Yeah.
interesting that you would start with the musical, which is, you know, something that you can incorporate all of the elements with singing and
Exactly, I
dancing
think that's
and
why.
acting.
Yeah, why it really drew me in.
Yeah, and I remember that moment. I mean, that musical, that was your first musical at Lehman College, where, you know, I'm a graduate from as well. And it was
Yeah.
like you were the new girl on the block. I'm like, wait, where did she come from? Yes, and now that we've said that, let's take a quick break and we'll come back. We'll find out, where did Cynthia LaCruz come from? We'll be right back after this.
People think I'm trash, but they're wrong. Today I'm just an aluminum can, but one day I could be a stadium.
So, same time next week? Well, of course.
Teachers today are finding new ways to instill old lessons, proving that greatness can be found in everyday places and that you don't need to be famous to be unforgettable.
Welcome back to A Life in Art. We're here with performer Cynthia LaCruz. So Cynthia, you talked to us a little bit about your genesis on how you started getting into the arts. So talk to me, I think we left it off with you joining a production of The Wiz at Lehman College. That was your first musical. And then did you get bitten by the acting bug there during that show? Or was it always still in your mind that singing was really what you wanted to do? Or do you have a preferred art form between singing, acting, and dancing?
Actually, at the time, I was like, I did get bitten by the acting bug, and I wanted to do it. I remember I started taking classes, and I actually thought of, going to audition and all this stuff. But as of late now, singing is like my,
Right.
yeah.
Have you
my
kept
all-time-
up with dancing at all, or not so much?
It's so funny, like, my life totally switched at one point, and it kind of set the tone for where I went as an artist. I started, after I was like all in this pop craze, I wanted to be a pop star and all this stuff. It was like when Britney was in and the Backstreet Boys and all this like midriff, and like I wanted to be that. And then I was in a girl group that was like sponsored. I mean, not sponsored. It was someone from Sony had put together
I
this
didn't
girl
realize
group.
that.
Yeah, and I was performing like hardcore for like 2 years in venues. We did Showtime at the Apollo and one.
Fantastic. Mostly here in
Yeah.
the city, or like all over the United States?
Mostly here in the city.
In New York, okay.
Yeah, and we were doing a lot of showcases for record companies, and then it was called Ambush. And then I remember when we went to Showtime at the Apollo, we went, Erykah Badu was the guest artist that night.
Wow.
And that was my first time, like I'd heard of her, but that was my first time like really coming in contact with her music. And the band was just like, it was just like this, something that grabbed my soul and my hair, like, I just got goosebumps, and I'm like, what is that music? Like, it's calling to me, that's what I wanna do. And from there on, I started doing research, and long story short, I found out that my calling has always been like blues and folk music, like,
Yeah, sort of that grounded, earthy
Yes,
type
yeah.
music. And that was going to be one of my questions, because as you're describing hearing and seeing Erykah Badu, that's how I feel when I see you perform. I remember you doing a rendition of At Last for an event that we had, Uptown Serenade, at the Lovinger Theater, which is this 500-seat theater. And the walls just were shaking as you were singing, and everybody was just like grabbing their seats like, what is this? So who are some of your musical influences? Because yeah,
Wow.
Erykah Badu, around that, that sounds right. Jill Scott, I think of when I
Yes.
think of you. Who else as you were coming up after you left the Britney, Christina, Backstreet Boy phase?
Yeah, well, it's so funny because I was still into the Christina Aguilera, because she has an amazing voice. She's been
Right.
influenced by a lot of jazz artists. So growing up, I always heard her and her inflections, and I would repeat what she would sing, But then I went deeper. I'm like, who are her influences? And listening to that. But I just want to say that Uptown Serenade, which is an amazing show here at,
Yeah, the
Lehman
Lehman
College,
Stages produces,
really
yes.
gave me the outlet to explore these artists and it kind of sing this music and explore parts of myself I didn't even know. I didn't even know I could do certain things with my voice. I just knew that it came from a part of me that till this day I still don't know what,
Yeah.
what it is.
No, and it's interesting that you say that, because yeah, I don't think with you specifically there's this transformative aspect. That's when you get on stage in front of a microphone, it's like a totally different person. And the cynical part of me as an actor would think like, okay, she's putting something on and she knows tricks and that's how she's going to do it, but it's not. It's just so organic and natural that it comes out of you, that when you get to the microphone and you sing, it's like a transformation before the audience's eyes. And when you finish the song, and I mean this in the most loving and respectful way, you're sort of goofy.
I know, I know.
It's like,
Like right now.
no,
I
not at
know.
all. You're great, but yeah, it's like this. I just saw this powerhouse, and then once you're done with the song, it's like, okay, bye everybody, and it's so amazing to watch. So talk to me about the group Ambush, the girl group that you were part of. So how did that sort of fall off? What happened there?
I don't. We just started growing up. Like our, just life took us in other courses. I know I was the youngest in that group,
Right.
and the other women, they wanted to pursue other things, and some were getting married. I mean, it was three of us. So it kind of just we tried to save it and add new members, but
I see.
the dynamics weren't the same. So
And was there ever a record deal in place with that, or you guys were just sort
no,
of
we were
performing,
trying
building
to,
up?
but we recorded so many songs.
Right.
Yeah.
So there was a later point in your life where you did have a record deal, somewhat
Yes.
recently, right? And that was a record deal actually out of the Dominican Republic, is that correct?
Yes,
Or how
out of
did
the
that work?
Dominican Republic.
So talk to me about that. That was as a solo artist, correct?
That was as a solo artist.
So tell me a little bit about that.
So my mom, being a poet, she always goes to all these like gatherings for poetry, and I remember it was a big show. I can't remember what we were celebrating at that point, and then I had already at that time. That's when the shift that I tell you I took musically, like artistically, also included me exploring the roots music in the Dominican Republic. So that like I guess people say Afro-Dominican, like palo and
Right.
gaga. So I was just, exploring with merengue and all these things, and I was singing a lot of Latin songs at the time, and I did some of the songs at the show, and there was an amazing songwriter from the Dominican Republic, Manuel Jimenez,
Yes.
and he had been there, and at that time I really wanted to work on a solo album or like a demo to start pitching, to
Right.
companies, and then
And he sort of took a liking to you? And
yeah, he really loved like the whole package, as people say, and he told my mom is funny. She's like my manager, but in a very pushy way. She's a very pushy man. She was like, ella quiere hacer su demo, ayúdala, and I'm like, okay,
Right.
this is so embarrassing, but.
Yeah, so basically your mom's pushing you out there like, here, this is my, oh, you like her?
Yeah.
So what does that mean? What's the next step? Come on.
Right. And
Right.
so then we agreed. I was going to the Dominican Republic the following month to sing at the National Book Fair, International Book Fair there.
Yes.
And then, he said, oh, come by and visit me at my office. He already had an established like a recording company called
Right.
Cundiamon Music. And we spoke, and it turned out that he was gonna, write these albums, which is amazing because he's an amazing songwriter.
Right.
He was gonna write the albums. I was just gonna, kind of lend my voice for the project.
Right, be a songstress on
Yes.
Ella Fitzgerald and Billie Holiday type, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So and then from there, that's how it took off.
Fantastic. And
Yeah.
how did that end up working out? How long did that process go, and
Well-
what happened with the album?
So we signed the contract, and actually, like, I believe that the reason it disintegrated was because
Actually, hold that thought, and I'm sorry to interrupt you
No
there, but
worries.
let's take a quick break, and then we'll go deeper into that.
Good.
So we'll be right back with Cynthia and find out what happened there, and also talk about motherhood and yoga. We'll be right back.
Oh my God, yeah, that's gonna.
We finally bought a place.
You seriously have enough saved to do that?
We've been putting a little aside each month.
At the end of the month, we have nothing left to save. How is my account overdrawn?
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind. Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org.
Enroll, we say. We want you to be okay. Enroll, we say. Take care, people, for goodness sake.
There's a plan for every budget, so don't accept defeat.
Now you can get covered and still.
Buy me treats.
You take care of your pets. Now it's their turn to take care of you. Visit getcoveredamerica.org to learn about your health insurance options.
Today, 1 out of every 4 American kids is Hispanic. That means many of the future doctors who will care for us, the engineers who will build our cities, the scientists and entrepreneurs of our country can be your kids. We all know how hard it is for you to send them to college. This is why we want you to know you are not alone. And every day, more people support you to make it happen. Many support you. And the Hispanic Scholarship Fund helps you prepare, plan, and pay for your kids' college education. Learn more at hsf.net.
Terminó la sonrisa fingida, ya no es nada. Pasó el susurro teatral y el quejido del cumplido te quiero. Falló, terminó de correr por mis venas como un río, el caudal de tu amor se alejó.
And we're back on A Life in Art with Cynthia LaCruz. So Cynthia, we had left off, I had to interrupt you. You had gone to the Dominican Republic to sing at the International Book Fair. You had connected at an event here in New York with Manuel Jimenez, who's a very just excellent and well-known Dominican songwriter. And you guys were working on a record deal, and then what happens?
So I went various times to record the album and then some videos. Then I did a few media tours there. So then we came to New York and finally released the album, and we tried to shop it here. But long story short, I just feel like he also works in the country and the government there. So managing me was really his wife and his son.
Oh, I see. So he not only was he writing the album, but he was managing you as well. Is that so? Basically, he was in charge of the record deal, or his wife? You're saying?
Well, his company, which is administered by his wife.
I see.
Yeah, and he kind of has a whole team there. So they were but they also at the same time put on all these like other shows, like in the country cultural shows. So I don't know. Maybe it was that there was too much going on to focus on me. And also another thing that I felt like I learned that lesson, I didn't have a team, someone looking out for my benefit and saying like, Right,
because you didn't have another agent or manager of your own other than perhaps your mother.
Exactly, yeah, right. Who was like, yeah, so.
I see.
So I just kind of let it go because
yeah, and if I remember during that time, I mean, I think there were some restrictions that were put on you as far as what events you can do or couldn't do because of this contract, and I remember you being a little uneasy about that as well. Am I remembering that correctly? Or?
Yes, that's correct. So at the time, I basically, because he was saying that now I was a professional artist, I could not perform for, if I wasn't getting paid or getting paid a low, because that kind of sets,
Okay, well that was looking out for your interest, I suppose. That makes sense.
Yeah, it was always, but then sometimes, it felt like, man, but I know there's show that I could get exposure, but that I knew, and that was where kind of the conflict was, because he didn't really know the scene here, I didn't really know the scene over there. So then I'm like, no, but this person, it would be great for me to perform. They're like, no, you can't perform there, because, X, Y,
yeah,
Z.
you had those restrictions.
Yeah.
Huh. So overall, that experience, did you feel that it was a beneficial one? Going back, would you go forward through it again?
It was a very beneficial one because I feel like I really got a dose of the business side of things and the business side of the music, which, as an artist, we're always like, oh, art, and we forget about business. And it's actually really a large percentage of what makes your career.
Yeah, I mean, and to be honest, I mean, in the acting world also, at the, once you reach a level that you're doing films and things like that, it's like, 70% of it is PR and marketing and business, and then just 30% is the actual art of it, which is, kind of sucky, but you got to do it.
And that's where I was at. It felt like 90% of my time I was networking or talking to people who wanted something, or like kind of just being at places, and I was.
Right, and you would really much rather just be on the stage behind the microphone.
Yeah, and no, not only, I started like longing to I never feel like I got to just be home and hang out and be with my family. Like I would miss so many, even before that, because I was always in rehearsals or something.
Yeah.
So that's where another shift in my life, and I'm like, wow, I don't think I want to be a professional performer.
So talking about shift, let me take that opportunity to talk about a big shift in your life that happened about a year ago now, right? You are now a mother to a beautiful baby girl who I've had the chance to meet and play with a little bit. So tell me, what has that done to you and to your life and as an artist?
Wow, it's so funny because actually when I had the shift, that's one of the things I'm like, wow, like, if I become a performer, I'm not gonna get to be a mom. I mean, I probably would, but it would be like I was already hitting like 30 and I felt like pressured, like, oh my God, not pressured, but you know, a part of me was like, wow, I wanna, first of all, when I was younger, I said, I'm never gonna have kids. I'm just gonna be traveling the world. Like, that's what I always said. And then all of a sudden, you know, like my maternal instincts kicked in. You know,
is that
like,
right?
yeah. And, you know, I don't know, I guess it just kind of came with me just letting stuff go and see where life was going.
Yeah, but I can imagine, and speaking from personal experience, because I have a young daughter as well and a stepson, that I just feel like as an artist, I can go deeper now because there are all these emotions and feelings and things that I understand more. Are you sort of on the same wavelength? Or?
Definitely. Like, when I was in that contract, I was not writing. I wasn't creative anymore. I was like miserable. And I feel like once I slowed down and really just committed to like home life or I'm writing amazing things that I'm like, wow, where did this come from? It's like everything, I don't know, tapping into this whole new frequency and like.
And we continue shifting with you through the arts in the couple of minutes that we have left. So talk to me about yoga, which, you know, I have to admit that I'm very ignorant about. What is that, and is there a spiritual component to it that drew you to it, and what does that mean to your life right now, and what are you doing with it? And how did it come into your life?
Well, actually, at that time too, being in the industry, when I really took it serious, that I was, again, in the contract and traveling, you really, I feel like for this industry, you really need some kind of spiritual, like faith, or something to hold you and give you like strength. And I was so lost, I didn't know what was going on with me, but I think it was that I needed just, you know, to get back, even if it's just like sitting with yourself and journaling. I feel like we're missing that now because we're so in technology.
Yeah.
So yoga was that outlet for me. Like, it brought me back to myself, to my inner self.
That's great, and now you become certified and you're starting to teach.
Yeah, I got deeper, and as I got deeper with my practice, I realized, wow, this is an amazing tool, and I want to share this specifically with artists. I would love to, like, you know, do yoga for artists, because I feel like it helps in so many ways, like whether it's breathing to relax. That's what I was asking you about, your techniques, and you know, just so many. It's such a complete system.
Well, that's great, Cynthia. And just we should also mention that your fiance is a photographer, so also an artist. So how does that help, you know, living with another artist? Is it, you know, good? Is it bad? Do you lock horns sometimes because of that? Or?
It's really challenging because, you know, sometimes I'll be focused on wanting to do my things, but he's like, okay, especially now with the baby, is a whole different dynamic.
You have to sort of divide it up.
Yeah, and sometimes, you know, we argue about time. They're like, oh, but you're always out doing your thing. I need to be, you know, so it's tough, but it comes in handy. Like, we help each other. Like, if he needs a model, I'm there, you know?
Right.
And then if I need last minute headshots, he's like, boom, like we're like at 3 a.m. shooting headshots.
Well, that's fantastic. That's amazing, Cynthia. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. I feel like we've just sort of scratched the surface, but thank you so much for coming on the show. I think, you know, our audience has learned so much from you, so thanks for being here. Thanks to Cynthia again for sharing her life in art with us, and thanks to all of you, the viewers, for joining us today. Remember to find us on social media and catch any episodes that you may have missed, and we'll be back with more stories from emerging artists when we return with A Life in Art.